Press subscribe to them and subscribe to me as well at @BarnabySlater_. I'm trying to get to 10,000. I'm nearly there. It's in the title, @BarnabySlater_ 10,000. But now, Brian, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Yes, 4 out of 4. Happy with that. It's fun to watch Spurs again. You know, obviously not as nail-bitey as it would be if that was a Premier League game, but that's what pre-season is for, right?
It is what pre-season for. Before I say anything, I very much look forward to our discussion on transfers and how it's going. I very much look forward to that segment of the chat. Listen, the first half, real bright spots. Kulusevski again, who I will say again, I've been very critical of on the playing out wide.
Yep.
Played central again, 1 assist, 1 goal. You can't argue with that. That's what he's there to do. It's what I've wanted to see. I've seen it again, so fair play to him. Sonny showing exactly why he says I need to play on the wing. He has to do that. And Jamie Donnelly was here, there and everywhere, always looking for that forward pass, always running to make himself available. I think he was outstanding in that first half, probably the best player on the pitch, if I'm honest. The second half, where the kids have come on recently and stolen the show, that second half was very meh to me. Don't get me wrong, there's some good passages and everything, but I think the heat, the humidity, and it just showed that pre-season, like you said, is there for a reason. It's fitness and everything, and there's still work to do. But there are some bright sparks in that game, just nothing like the previous 3.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure you heard me say I thought at 3-0 up it was going to be an easy second half, and then the K-League All-Stars made some changes, didn't they? And we couldn't really handle the pace. I agree with everything you say about Jamie Donnelly. I thought Pedro Porro looked good in the first half as well. Took up some really good spaces. What did you make of our new boys, Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray? I'm basically in love with Lucas Bergvall. Just wondering if you are as in love with him as I am.
I don't get me wrong. When we actually signed him, I can't remember a young talent that we'd... And I'll be honest, I hadn't heard a lot about him before we signed him, but then obviously as we did, and we've all seen what YouTube can do with compilations and these people on X, they can make people look good. But what I love wasn't just the flicks, some of his vision, some of the passes he pulls off. I think Ariane was saying it as well. You don't see... We don't have the players making these passes or the eye for it or even the balls to try it. So exactly. I've been very impressed with what I've seen on him. Obviously, he's got a long way more to show, but he excites me. He's a player that I've been saying for ages. I can't remember the last time Tottenham Hotspur had a player that when he got on the ball, like a Gareth Bale, like a Ginola, like a Gaza, where you thought you're moments away from something happening, something out of the ordinary could happen. We haven't had that recently, and he's given me those kind of, nowhere near the people I just mentioned, but you can see it in him. He may have the ability to do that. As for Archie Gray, I've been super impressed with him. I think it may have been tipped on Tottenham or yourself, Barnaby, or maybe even it was the quietest of the 3 games he's had, but he's coming at an 18-year-old, and I think we've got a star in him. I think we've got an absolute star in Archie Gray. And like I said, Lucas will develop. There's no doubt the talent is there, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm impressed by, not just their obvious talents and skills and potential, but also that it seems like for the first time in quite a long time, there is a through route between what the coach wants and needs in terms of attributes of players and what the recruitment side of the club are getting for him. And also, I really like the fact that Ange has his veto and clearly does see it as important to get to know and get to grips with what the attitudes are of these players too. And that's why actually I'm also always slightly unsure whether Ivan Toney is a realistic signing for Spurs, because I'm not sure whether Ange... I don't know what kind of phone call they'd have, but everything I've heard, the rumours I heard is that Arsenal basically got into talks with Toney and didn't really like the way that he came across. But anyway, like I said, the through route of the recruitment side I'm impressed by, and I guess that's a good segue to talk about as you're keen to transfers. And I have certainly noticed on Twitter over the last few days that you are getting increasingly annoyed about Tottenham's transfer policy at the moment, or strategy. So tell us your feelings, Brian, mate, and let us know for sure.
But I haven't been getting annoyed at all. I've been mainly joking about the ITKs, going, oh, we're one step closer. Oh, we're closer and closer. One more step, this, that. And the transfer, we'll get into transfers, but this summer, I'm not listening to any of the ITKs. I am laughing at the rubbish. I've taken a step back from what I did last summer and not jumping on every little thing, blaming a certain person for every little thing. I'm joking with that. But we'll get on to transfers now. So first of all, Ivan Toney update. The replacement that they wanted for him has been ruled out till late 2024. Yeah. So the one that was coming in, whether that's going to kibosh what goes on with us with Tony, for their replacement, I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with what Ariane said. I'm sick and tired, not of Ariane, of people saying, oh, well, no other team spending, no other team spending. The teams above us don't need to spend or need so many key players as we do. This transfer window is used, the whole process of it is to strengthen your team to compete with your rivals and do better than you did last year. So when we hear Liverpool haven't made a signing yet, that Liverpool team just needs a couple of tweaks. They needed their whole midfield restructured last window. Bang, they went and addressed it. Manchester City, yeah, they've hardly spent apart from that winger. Man City have been walking the league for 4 years. Man City are in a place where they'll identify a player in one position they want to improve on, and they'll go and do it.
Yeah.
Oh, the filth down the road. Last season, they only needed, or their main thing was to go get a defensive midfielder or someone that could run that midfield. Bang, 100 mil. Then you look at these teams that do it. We need more than one position. We need more than what they need. They'll go out and address the situation and get it done. Now, listen, when it comes to outgoings, I think we've done very, very well. Obviously, we haven't sold the players at the peak of their powers and got the best money we could for them. Their contracts have winded down. So we're getting them off the book, getting them off the wage bill. Tottenham have done magnificent. Levy's done, I'll even say it here. The club as a whole, including Daniel Levy, so everyone who says that I don't give praise, check it, I'm doing it right now. What the club have done to get these players out, they have done very well and better than before, ever, under this man's ownership. So there's praise for that. But when I hear now that, like you said, Barnaby, we've got loads of debt, we're the most in-debt team. Correct. But we were told we've done it over a very, very long term on low interest, so it doesn't affect how we compete. So you can use it one way to say, yep, we've got a lot of debt. Everyone's got debt, and obviously player transfers per year, paying installments. Yep. Everyone's doing that. But people can't use we've got so much debt for the stadium, because the way that we've been told that debt has been paid over a long term was to benefit the first team and not affect transfers. So you can look at it, and like I said, with these other teams, they'll just go and get the 1-2 players they need. And the biggest thing that's really annoying me, when people start saying, well, these other teams have got to find their replacement. These other teams, they're not selling before they find their replacement, which is the bang-on correct thing to do. Do Tottenham Hotspur do that? Do we bring our replacement in for that player that's leaving and then sell them? No. When Ericsson left and we wanted Bruno Fernandes, we didn't just sell him to Inter Milan and use that. No, the money has to come in. So when people are saying that the teams are looking for their replacements, those other teams are doing absolutely everything correct. Of course, that's why we didn't get Van der Ven sooner, because Wolfsburg wanted the replacement in. They knew he was there set in stone to let him go. So when I hear that used as a reason, the selling team, like a Palace for Eze, absolutely bang on. Go get your replacement. That's what a football club should do. If a player is outgoing, make sure you get the incoming first. You know that is covered. And then sell the player. But we don't do that. You look at it. Kane, replacement, you could say with Charleston. Look how long for Ericsson, Maddison. Look how long for Vertonghen, Van der Ven. Look at Carl Walker goes. Perfect example. We go, Trippier was there. But then we go for Aurier, we go for Emerson, we go for Doherty, we go for Spence, who is improving incredibly, and then we get Porro. That's 5 alternatives to replace probably the best right back in the league, bar Gary Neville. Why are we selling them buying rather than getting the replacement in? And like I said, I'll go back on it. The incomings we've done exceptional. Sorry, outgoings.
The outgoings, yeah.
We've done exceptional. But I don't like it when people use these. And by the way, it's not me having a dig at you or anything, but
No, it's all
when
right.
we look at it as a whole and people say, well, we're waiting on the other teams to sell, the teams are doing it right. We just don't do that. When people
Yeah.
say the debt, we were told it was stretched out for a long time, so this wouldn't be a factor.
Yeah.
And then
Can
the
I?
other teams going, when the
Yeah.
big six haven't spent, it's because they're above us, and they've got their positions. They just need to go and top up with a one or two. We need more than one or two.
Yeah. Yeah, just to play devil's advocate, like you said, you did mention, I'd say Richarlison, I think, and I'm not suggesting this went well, but I think was Kane's replacement. I think, if we go back as far as the Bale replacements, we did do it that way. So I think, it's kind of a mix. We don't always do it well, and we certainly don't. We don't always do it. We don't always do it, but we certainly don't always do it right. That's for sure.
That I will say is technically wrong. And the reason I'll say that is AVB wanted the Hulk, he wanted Matinho, he wanted others, but Baldini and Levy said, we bring the players in, you coach them. And then obviously, but listen, I'm not putting that on Levy, I'm putting that solely on Baldini. Solely on Baldini.
Yeah.
We
like I said, they don't always do it.
Wanted.
They don't always do it, but they certainly don't always do it right. So I'm not against you on
Correct.
that. What I'd say about the debt thing is, and it's just devil's advocate, and I'm not a finance guy, so I don't know. But what I would say is, back in the day when we were building the stadium, and Daniel Levy said, building the stadium will not affect our ability to get transfers in. It very clearly did, and I've always said, I think the reality of that is that in terms of business speak, he had to say that. He had to say it won't affect things, because otherwise the vultures would have snooped around Harry Kane and Dele Alli and whatever, Eric Dyer and Christian Eriksen and whatever, right? And all I'm saying is, and I'm not saying it's right, I think the same thing is happening with the long-term debt, which is they cannot come out and say it's not going to affect us. But they can't do that. But it will affect us. And I think and I always come back to this, which is Arsenal moved into the Emirates in 2006. They didn't spend proper money. And they hardly spent any money, but they didn't spend proper money till 2013 when they bought Mesut Ozil, and then they didn't spend proper money until Nicola Pepe, which I think was like 17 or 18 or 19 for 75 million. So what we're looking at with that is a minimum of 7 years from the Emirates going up to them being able to make the most of the Emirates. And what I would also add to that is around the Emirates, I'm sure you've been around there, they've got thousands of flats. They've got thousands of flats that they've been able to sell. And then at Highbury, where they used to be, they've got hundreds of flats that they've been able to sell. So a big cash cow there that they had. Now, Spurs also have a big cash cow, as we know. The stadium, the concerts, the F1, go-karting, blah, 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 the things that everyone gets pissed off about. All I would say is I don't think Levy can come out and say we're not going to be able to spend as much as we want until, let's say, minimum 7 years, and we're at 5 years now. But I do think that if we're able to be patient, that will come, but it's not, I just don't think it's there yet. And one thing I will say against Levy, which I haven't said much, but one thing that he has done that I think has been more pragmatic than he should have done, and we needed more of, is he has constantly kept us at, I think, the 6th or 7th highest wage bill spenders, and he doesn't want to go above that. And the reality is, the sad reality is, until he is willing to go higher than that and break into that top 3, it's going to be very difficult for us to win the Premier League. That is a fact.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I'm just well, like you said, what you said about him coming out saying it won't affect transfers, you're right. He should have cut. But what I will say, you used the Emirates. I'm glad you did, because I was going to. When Arsenal moved into the Emirates, Arsene Wenger came out publicly and said, right, for the next few years, this is going to be hard. We're going to have to sell players. Players are going to leave this club. We're going to have to do things difficult. Players will leave this club because we have to pay the debt. We got told the opposite, and he could have come out and said, listen, miscalculations, whatever, it's going to be a little struggle. But then, like you said, you mentioned the flats. During those years at the Emirates when it first came up, they didn't have NFL. They didn't have boxing. They had the odd concert. They didn't have the multiple events. They didn't have a skywalk. They didn't have... So you're right in what you're saying. When Arsenal came through, they had to go through some struggles. But Wenger, and I always praise Wenger for doing this, he came out and said to the Arsenal fans, right, guys, listen, I'm telling you now, the next few years, until this debt's paid, we're going to see players leave. We have to get this debt done. But once the debt is done, you'll see the change. Obviously, it's taken Arsenal till now to get there and see some real impetus. but at least Wenger had the balls to come out and say it.
Yeah, but the Arsenal
have
fans, the Arsenal fans turned on him for it, though, didn't they? Like in
they
reality,
did in the end.
Yeah,
they did in the end. But look what, pardon me, look what he gave them in the first 10 years.
I agree.
So that's
Unbelievable.
the thing. You can't take away. And still, they were winning FA Cups. Because I don't want to make it too much talk about the filth.
True.
I just think these incomings, going back to the game, I think it just one of the things that did concern me and I'll link it to the transfers is, yes, it was only a pre-season. Yes, those players aren't there, but thankfully Van de Ven and Romero will be back shortly. But what does still concern me is how easy it is to get to them.
Yeah.
That second half, and that was a Korean all-star team, I believe. They cut through that midfield like butter. Yes, we didn't have our first team midfield out or in the second half, but it went to show that with the fullbacks still going forward, it's very, very easy to get to the back two. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Romero and Van de Ven are one of the best partnerships in the Premier League, and two of the best defenders individually, but they need help from the midfield. It cannot be that easy come come Leicester in the season going forward.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get that addressed. But
can I ask you a quick question just before I let you go, Brian? Just relevant to that.
Yeah.
Is that why we have been interested all summer and longer in Conor Gallagher, and why we're now interested in Jacob Ramsey again as well? Because in terms of running backwards on transitions, they are workhorses who will put the effort in and are maybe arguably a bit quicker than Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been very open with I don't want Conor Gallagher at the club. I don't personally think he's all that. But Ange Postecoglou loves him. And I will say, and I've always said this, I may not want him or appreciate him as a player, but if you look at the attributes Ange wants for that role, Conor Gallagher is pretty much the kind of type of midfielder you're looking at. I don't want him, but if we do get him, I'll support him. But the most telling thing, if he does come to Spurs, is Ange wants him as his number one target. And if he does come in, whether we appreciate the signing or not, Ange would have got his first pick of a player. Yeah. Maybe a little bit too late or whatever. But you can see, going back to that, Barnaby, to put it all together, you can see why Tottenham and Ange Postecoglou could be looking for that type of midfielder, because I think we were just exposed too much. But I also think Archie Gray, with experience, could do that job. But I think we need one more in midfield.
Yeah, I think good news for you, Brian, is that it looks like Gallagher's going to go to Atletico Madrid. But, mate, thank you so much for calling in. I will be here again on Saturday. Give me a call again then, and have a great rest of your week.